Can we start with something like this?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Doctor, thank you so much for your time. Since we're already having a conversation on something very similar to something that I enjoy having a conversation about, how to get people attracted to a free market. And let's get started with this. Is there something called free market in this world? 100% free market?
No, there is no 100% free market. I think all systems are, in reality, a mixture between capitalism and socialism. I compare it with a test tube where you have two ingredients, market and state, or capitalism and socialism, and then you look what happened if you add more market and what happened if you add more state. I will give you two examples. Vietnam, I'm very familiar with Vietnam because I have a girlfriend from Vietnam and I was there several times. Yeah. And Vietnam was the poorest country in the world in the 90s. First, they had this terrible war, not only one war, several wars. Then they had what was not destroyed by the war was destroyed by the planned economy. Yeah. And they were poorer than all African countries. And then they started with economic reforms, open the economy, allow private property, free market reforms. And now it's an entrepreneurial spirit there, and they make a lot of progress. And the number of people living in poverty was reduced from 80% to less than 5%. And similar things happened in a lot of Asian countries. When you look in the last decades or last 50, 60 years first, South Korea, for example, was in the 60s as poor as African countries. Today, it's amazing if you go there. Or China, they call themselves socialist, and of course it's a one-party system, but in the economy, they had these reforms with Deng Xiaoping in the 80s, and the people living in poverty declined there from 88% in 1981 to less than 1% today. Or look even for Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong. So what I don't really understand, if you live here in an Asian country not so far away from these countries, people should see they make progress there. They are better off. And what has happened with us? Why not with us? And I think the answer is very easy, because there's not enough economic freedom. If you look at the index of economic freedom, this is a ranking by the Heritage Foundation, 177 countries. Then you see number one is Singapore in the world. The last one is North Korea. And your country, I think now it's rank 142 out of 177. And so there's a lot of place for improvement.
Improvement, exactly, right? In the world of digitization, where everything is digital, where people have access to almost every sort of knowledge, and also access to looking at just diving into lives of their loved ones or lives of other people, right? With Instagram, you can probably go ahead and get a peek of somebody's life. It can be a billionaire, it can be a millionaire, it can be your friend, it can be your family, right? Looking at that, I think the world has opened up, and people want access to almost everything, but maybe don't have the means to get there. Has that happened now? In terms of maybe in the 70s and 80s, things were different. People didn't know how the world was back in the day.
Yes, this is correct. But you can draw two conclusions. The one is I have to change something in my own country. I have to fight for maybe a free market revolution, or to change it, or maybe the easier way is leaving the country. Going to, of course, this is easier for everyone. When changes come, when will it come? Will it happen? And you take a lot of risks. And then I understand people when they say, okay, let's leave the country. And this is what happened every time when you have too much state intervention, too much socialism, people left the country. I give you one example. Venezuela. Venezuela in the 70s was one of the 20 richest countries in the world, one of the 20 richest countries. Then they started with a lot of regulation, labor market regulation, and things became worse. And then they made a mistake. The end of the 90s, they voted for socialist Hugo Chavez, and he started with all this crazy stuff, nationalization. the result was, as always with socialism, they had 1 million% inflation rate, 1 million per year, and now 25% of the population left, 7.5 million people left. They go to Chile or to other countries. They are leaving. And this is what happened in my country. I produced a movie. You can get it for free on the internet, on YouTube, Life Behind the Berlin Wall. And what happened there, Germany was a divided country with East Germany, socialism, West Germany, capitalism. And what happened, of course, almost 3 million people left from the East to the West. And the only thing they could do, they built a wall and they killed everyone who want to leave the country. So this is the only possibility now for your country. You have to choose between two things. First, build another wall and kill everyone who want to leave, or make more economic freedom, better, more capitalism, better environment, so that people love to stay here, and even people come back who left there, who maybe studied in the United States or elsewhere. And I think if they would see an opportunity to make great business, of course they would come back, as it happened in India, as it happened in Vietnam, as it happened in China. They will come back.
I want to dive into examples, right? The models might be different country to country, but the pattern is almost similar when we go back and look at history. If I'm not mistaken, you definitely go ahead and shed more light on this. If we go ahead and look at what's happening at ours, I've come to realize that young people definitely want to go ahead and they're looking at an exit. Doesn't matter wherever the exit is, but exit out of here. Let's go ahead and go in the future, a decade later or 2 decades later. What might be the scenario if we do not, if we just go ahead and not pause it, we can't stop it, just go ahead and slightly go ahead and minimize the exit of young people and give them opportunities here. If we don't do that, what can be the scenario in a decade or 2 decades?
Oh, it will be a total disaster. I think even now, your country, you know it better than me, belongs to the group of the poorest countries in the world, but there's no limit to go more down and down and down. And if this happens, I don't know. When people will understand that there has to be a dramatic change in the economy. I think you had a lot of discussion about the Constitution. I think you had 7 constitutions or something like this in 100 years, so more than every other country that I know, so many different, and you had so many debates about Constitution. But I think you should stop discussing constitution stuff, but thinking about the economy, how to make the economy free. For example, what I learned there, you have this maximum 20% profit on good. I never heard it nowhere in the world, and I think it's a totally crazy idea to have this 20%. And of course, this is also a reason for corruption, because the more regulation you have, the more corruption you have. It's everywhere in the world, because if the government is so strong and they have so many regulations, what happens if someone comes to your company and tells, oh, here, RC, you have more than 20% profit, what will you do? They will bribe them, say, okay, I give you some money and then please close your eyes for this. And so the best way to get reduce corruption is get rid of regulation, because every regulation by the government is another reason for corruption.
We need some kind of check and balance, don't we, in the world?
What do you mean with check and...
when it comes to policies, when it comes to going ahead and making sure that we look into not just businesses, I'm in general saying there needs to be some kind of rules and regulations when it comes to even moving ahead, right? There needs to be, at least a path needs to be set by the government. Isn't that true?
Before you think about, I think I know no country in the world where you have you have not enough regulations, but I know a lot of countries where you have too many.
Too many.
And here I think it's worse than, I've been in 30 countries this year and last year, but I haven't seen a country where you have so much, I've seen a lot of crazy regulations, but here you have so many. The same is for foreign investments. I think you should need more foreign investments. That's what they did in Vietnam. They opened the economy. They welcomed investors, for example, from the United States. They thought about how can we attract foreign investors. And here I think politicians think about how can we stop foreign investors, or what can we? I think they have a long list where it's not allowed for foreign investors to invest here. And then there's not enough capital here in Nepal to do all the things that are necessary. So you need money from outside the world. So I think the main focus from politicians should be how can we make the environment here for investors so attractive that we, for example, what they did in China when Deng Xiaoping started his economic reforms in the 80s, they had this so-called special economic zones. I think you had also something, but it's only called so. It's not, in reality, it's not what it should be. A special economic zone should something like be where you have almost no regulations or very, very little regulations, very low taxes, so that it's really attractive. And then this is the way it happened in China. For example, Shenzhen today, it's I've been there several times. A huge city, 12 million people living there, a lot of entrepreneurial spirit. But when they started, it was a small village with 50,000 people living there, fishermen. And then they started with special economic zone, and they saw that it worked. And then they had more and more and more, and in the end, in the own country. So what I don't understand, in business, when you see another company that is more successful than your company, we call it in business best practice. And then you learn, what can we learn from them? What can we adapt? And I think you're surrounded here by a lot of countries that became, in a way, successful, different countries in the last decades. I spoke about Vietnam, South Korea, Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan. And I think it's not so, for me, it's a little bit hard to understand why people are not unhappy with the situation. Here, look, I think it's the same. Imagine I give you a thought experiment. You are a family and you live in poverty. And then your neighbor, one neighbor after the other, starts having a big car, a better house, and you're still
in poverty.
In poverty with your bicycle. The normal reaction should be that you look, oh, what does he have? How did he get it? Can I have the same thing? And I hope that this will happen sometimes, that people question this and ask, why are we I don't think that people in Nepal are less intelligent than people in other countries, or that they are lazy. Or I don't think. I think it's the lack of economic freedom. It's that the state is too much involved in everything. This is the only problem. And in the moment when you solve this problem, go away from big government and go in the direction of economic freedom, then of course there's a huge opportunities. And if you attract investors from other countries, and then if people come back who left now your country, I think, of course, your country could have a great future. I'm absolutely convinced about it.
If you had to give an example of a few countries, right? Which country would you go ahead and start with? If you had to pick a few.
Taiwan is a good example, but Singapore also is a very good example. To be honest, I know the most from Vietnam because I wrote my new book now about Vietnam, and I was there several times. They call themselves socialist, the Communist Party, but in reality they are not. It's only, they call themselves this way. But I was there at different universities. I found no one who believed in Karl Marx theories. It's easier to find someone at university in the United States or in Europe who believes in Karl Marx than in Vietnam, because they understood that it doesn't work. No, on the contrary, they invited me, for example, the Foreign Trade University in Hanoi, for a workshop with the topic, how can we improve the image of rich people? This was interesting because I was never invited in the United States or in Europe for a workshop. How can we improve image of rich people? Yes, and still the image of rich people is amazing in Vietnam. I commissioned a poll, a survey in 13 countries, and there was no country where the image of rich people was so positive as it is in Vietnam. And I think this is also a difference. When rich people or people who make profit are scapegoats, or if people hate rich people.
Exactly.
Yes, this is no. Of course, I speak about rich people who are honest. Who became rich not with any. I don't speak about criminals or so, but I speak about entrepreneurs. Most of the rich people are entrepreneurs. If you look all around the world, for example, in the Forbes list of the richest people in the world, almost all of them became rich as entrepreneurs. And these people should be role models, but in some countries, also in my country now, it's changing to the bad. They are scapegoats. There are a lot of people who hate rich people, and this is how it started in China in the 80s in a positive way. After Mao's death, Deng Xiaoping started his economic reforms with the slogan, let some people become rich. And now everyone want to become rich. And so this is even like a kind of religion there. Everyone thinks about how can I become rich? And if some people become rich, it's also good for the other people. This is what socialists don't understand, what anti-capitalists don't understand. They believe in something, I call it zero-sum belief. It means they think that some people become rich because they take it away from the poor. But this is totally nonsense, and I can prove why this is nonsense. The number of people living in poverty decreased 200 years ago before capitalism. The percentage of people living in extreme poverty all over the world was 90%. 90%. Today it's less than 9%. And half of this reduction happened over the last decades. Even in 1980, the number of people living in poverty all over the world was 43%. And the same time, the number of billionaires increased. In 2000, there were 500 billionaires in the world. Today, we have 2,700 billionaires. So when at the same time, the number of billionaires is increasing and the number of people living in poverty decreasing, so you see, zero-sum thinking is absolutely nonsense. But this is what a lot of people believe. And the reason why people came out of poverty and why people become rich, it's the same reason. It's economic growth. This is the only recipe to fight poverty.
To fight poverty, that's where we're headed towards, and that's something very, very you've written on your book as well. And obviously, I've gotten a gist of some of your books. And right now, the idea of giving back, right? Let's say you've amassed X amount of wealth. You've worked really hard for it. You've gotten all the strings together. You've amassed a lot of wealth. The idea of giving back, what you believe in that?
I don't believe in this, even in the words, giving back. Giving back sounds for me like you have stolen something before. Of course, it's great when someone like Bill Gates, who is the biggest donor in the world and who spent billions and billions in the fight against poverty. It's okay, but he don't have to give back something because he never stole something from anyone. How did he become rich? With Microsoft, with what we use, all Word and so on.
Idea.
And these people, they had good ideas, and this is the way when you become rich, you have to have a good idea. Like, for example, Jeff Bezos with Amazon, he had a good idea, so he became rich. Or Larry Page and Sergey Brin, the founder of Google, they had a great idea, so they became rich. And they gave something to people. You use it every day. And this is, what capitalism means. Capitalism is democracy in the economy, because consumers decide every day whether someone becomes rich or not. Every time you use Google or you order something with Amazon, you make these people rich. Every day you use Microsoft, you make these people rich. If people stop using it, they will be no longer rich. And so this is the democracy in the economy. This is what capitalism means.
At the end of the day, on today's date in 2023, where do you think we stand when it comes to, we in a sense, earlier you gave such a fantastic example, Doctor, I loved it. We are between India and China today, two of the largest economies in the planet. Learning from both of them and grasping and soaking from both of them, what are your suggestions?
I think the reason for the progress in both countries in the last decades is very easy. It's less state, more economic freedom. This is what happened everywhere in the world. Of course, every country has to find its own way. You can't copy it one-to-one. Every country has its own tradition. But what all countries that are successful, what they all have in common, that they have more economic freedom. And this is also, I wouldn't mention only China and India, but the other countries that I spoke about. You have so many countries in Asia that were really successful in the last decades. I think, when the government would be smart here in Nepal, they would do the same thing as Deng Xiaoping in China did in the beginning of the 80s. He sent hundreds of people all over the world to look why they were successful, what worked, and what not. This was the first thing that he did. He sent out some hundreds of people, especially they went to Singapore, and he was very surprised what such a very small country as Singapore, how absolutely successful they were. And then when they analyzed it and when people came back and told him, and he himself, Deng Xiaoping, was also in Singapore and saw it, then they saw that all the things that communists told them about the bad capitalism and how bad is the living of people there, that it was all lies, that in reality they had a much, much better life than they had in China. And then when they came back, they started with experiments. This is special economic zones that I mentioned. And so I think, for example, I spoke about this limit with 20% profit. What's the craziest things I've ever heard? I don't know whether there's any country in the world where you have a limit to 20% profit. So what I don't understand, when you see it's nowhere in the world, or this tariffs, high taxes for cars with 250%. So when it's nowhere in the world, does the government think here they are smarter than everyone else in the world? So we are smarter than everyone else? No. If your country would be the richest country in the world, and people have here a great life, if they are very wealthy, then I could understand if they say, okay, don't tell us anything else because we know how it goes. But when people are poor, you should think, why is that? And when you see that you have some restrictions for foreign investments, for making profit and so on, that don't exist in other successful countries. So I would love it when I come back to Nepal when some people make big campaigns, maybe starting with some topic like this 20%. Yesterday had another interview with a newspaper here, but he told me, yes, but a lot of people in Nepal, they like this 20% because they think it's greedy if you take more, and maybe it's bad to have profit. No, people first should understand profit is good, is not bad. Every company has to make a profit. If a company doesn't make a profit, it's dangerous because sooner or later this company will go in insolvency, will get bankrupt, and a lot of workers will lose their jobs. And only if they make profit, they can work and they can grow and they can hire you. And so I think this is important change in the mindset. That it means profit is good and it's not bad. Of course, I speak to making profit in an honest way, of course. And this is the same for a country as for individual person. If you want to be successful, if you want to be rich, I wrote my second doctoral dissertation about the psychology of super rich people, and I have now this book here in Nepal about how to think, how to set yourself bigger goals. Bottom up, it's very easy. When you want to change your life, first change your mindset. Think differently. Why are some people more successful than other people? Very easy. They are more successful because they act different. And why do they act different? Because they think different. And so the first, if you want to change something in your life, change the way you're thinking. If you go on doing the same things as you did before, how can you expect different results? And the same with the country, society. If you go on doing, I think, this 20% limit, I think it's since the 60s or something like this. If you go on with the same thing, why it's not logical to expect any different results? So this is what Albert Einstein said one time. If you do the same thing in the same way always and you expect different results. It's insane.
Yeah, and it's going to be mundane. Two things I wanted to touch base on before we head on towards the secret of successful people. Remittance-driven economies. Dr. What's your take on that? How long can we survive on remittance? How long have countries survived on remittance?
I think I know no country who became successful when the most when the smartest people left the country and when they. So I know no example in
the world
in history. No. I think it's of course it always you have to think what kind of people leave. And in most cases, these are the smartest people. Even in Germany, we have the problem now. I have to admit it. I criticize a lot what happens in Germany. We go also now, we were a very successful country because of market economy, but now our government goes more and more in the direction of a planned economy. And what happens? We have also hundreds of thousands of people who are leaving Germany and
skilled.
Yes, 75% of them have a university degree. Skilled people, they go to the United States, they go to Switzerland, they go to somewhere. And other people come to Germany who want to, get money from the welfare state. They come from poor countries, like from African countries. But these are not the smartest people who come there. Because Germany has a huge welfare system. If you come to Germany and if you work nothing, you have maybe a family with 2 children, you get $2,500 a month without doing nothing, for nothing. Yes, you get your paycheck. And so it's attractive, of course, for a lot of people to come there. And these people are coming and the others are leaving. And, this is, of course, very dangerous for every country.
And so, when we go ahead and look back in history, right? How remittance is a temporary fix? Can we say that?
Yes, it can't happen for a long time without. It's like if you are losing blood in your body. Of course, you can lose some blood, but if you lose more and more, you will die sooner or later.
Another specific thing that I wanted to go ahead and talk to you about was economy driven by tourism.
Yes, it can.
Is it sustainable?
It can work in some countries. If you have, there are some countries also in Europe, like Spain or Greece, who has great weather and the sea. And if you tourism, of course, it's an important part. But of course, it should be not the only thing. If you look at the really successful countries here, it's modern technology what is, of course, more important than tourism. Why is Taiwan so successful with all the semiconductors and so? They deliver the whole world. Depend on them. And also now in in China, if you see, they have a lot of innovation with high-tech companies. And this is the modern age, of course. This is why the United States, in spite of having a lot of problems, are still so successful, because there were also new, like whether it was Google or Facebook or Apple and so. And I think this is tourism is a good part of it. It depends when you're attractive for tourists. It depends whether you have a sea and good weather and all this. It's not, of course, anything you can rely on. I think the most important thing is to embrace innovation. And I think in India you have also, as in China, a lot of smart people with technology, with startups, with software, and I think this is more important than tourism. But of course, tourism is also an important part.
On today's date, when we go ahead and look at successful people, right? The entrepreneurs that we've been constantly talking about, right? And also in your book, you mentioned a lot of people who've created a lot of businesses from their idea that struck in their mind. What might be the next set of ideas that's going to come out in the next 100 years, or in the next in the next few centuries, right? The amount of wealth that people are going to go ahead and create from ideas.
I don't know, because the only thing that I know is that it's all full of surprise. This is if someone would have predicted 50 years ago what happens now, imagine you make it like a time travel. So yes, and conversation. What are you doing? I'm doing search engine optimization, or I'm doing make some new apps, and so people wouldn't understand what is it talking about. And so I think it's now you have this artificial intelligence stuff and things. And I remember when 10 years ago someone told me he's working in this. I thought, yes, it's interesting, but I had not the idea that it will become such a great story. So this is the history is full of
surprises?
Examples, surprises, and I think what a lot of people don't understand, the most important thing if you want to become rich and successful is ideas, ideas, ideas. Some people say hard work is the key. Maybe it's a part of it, hard work, but I know a lot of people who are really hard working, but they are never successful. I think even here in Nepal, you will find a lot of very poor people that are really hard working. I don't think that they work not as hard as some very successful entrepreneurs are. But the real difference is it's about ideas that make you rich, not how long you work, not how hard you work, but how good are your ideas. Bill Gates had good ideas with his Microsoft, and Larry Page, Sergey Brin, had this good idea with a search engine machine that they called Google later. And this is all about ideas. And this is what people sometimes don't understand, even envious people. Sometimes say, oh, these people, they don't work 1,000 times longer or harder than I. Why are they so rich and I'm not? Because they don't understand what's the source of wealth. So the source of wealth is ideas. And so start to looking for opportunities. And it's not, some people say, it's chance or it's luck or coincidence. I don't believe in it. I never met someone who had all over his life only good luck or only bad luck. On a long distance, good and bad luck even each other out. Sometimes you have good luck, sometimes you have bad luck. But it's more important than good or bad luck, whether first you have to recognize that there's an opportunity, to recognize it. And then the next thing is to act. Yesterday I had a lecture there with students, and I made a little experiment, and I explained it to them. I took these two books, and I asked who like to have a book. Only who like to have a book. And some people raised their hands, but they didn't understand that they can get it for free. Yeah. They didn't understand what I mean. But then someone from some of the last rows, he understood and started to run. And congratulations, here's the book. And then I told them, here, if it would be only about chance and luck, only people in the first row would have an opportunity because they have the shortest distance. But how was it? First, people didn't realize that it's for free because I didn't say, please come here and get a book for free, but I said only who would like to have the book. And maybe some people thought, oh, what happens there? Can I get the book for free or not? And maybe some thought about started going there, but then, oh no, maybe it's not for free. And then I make a fool of myself. People will laugh at me. You're running there and people say he's crazy. But other people, they recognized and then they had the courage to start to run and to do it. And with this example, I explained to them, it's not coincidence would mean only in the first row they have the opportunity. No, it's first that you realize a lot of people, they go blind through life. I think every one of us is blind in a way. You and me, I think maybe in the last week we could see a lot of opportunities that successful entrepreneurs would see, but we haven't seen it because we didn't look for it. But then, okay, the first step, you have to recognize that there is an opportunity, but this is not enough. I have a friend, he's very, very rich in Germany, and he told me something. He said, every evening in a bar, there are people sitting, drinking their beer, and there are a lot of good ideas. And he said, yes, in reality, he means real. There are ideas, but the difference is they don't go to realize it. They don't do it. This is a problem. They don't act.
It's the execution which is the hardest part. The execution is something that's going to make it or break it?
Sure. Also, only the idea and starting, of course, it's not enough. But with the executions this way, I read the autobiography of Michael Bloomberg, who's one of the richest men in the world. I admire him. You can learn a lot if you read his autobiography. Yeah. And he said, it's not so important what you know when you found your company, but it's important how fast you learn. This is what happened for me when I was an entrepreneur. When I founded my company, to be honest, I didn't know enough about this business at this moment. I had not enough knowledge, but the positive thing was that I realized that I didn't know enough, and I hired then other people who knew more than me, and I learned and I adapted. And there were other employees in my company when I changed the business model, and they said, but this is not the way how we started, and this was not the way what we want to do. As I said, yes, of course, not. But if I have to make the decision whether I would do everything according the idea that I had in the beginning, or whether I do it according to the needs of our customers. When I see this is what they need, I don't think, oh, this was not the plan. Forget the plan. You know, this is also a big mistake. You hear it when you study business for MBA or economy. Professors will tell you always, oh, they're important. There's a business plan and this mathematic models. It's crazy. Don't believe in this shit. So if they were right, they would be rich. But how many professors you see that are rich with all their plans, with business plans? No, I spoke about the Google founders, Sergey Brin and Larry Page. They had no business plan. They had only the idea to create the best search engine in the world, and they thought, if we have it, we will sooner or later find an opportunity to make money with this. And this is the way how it was. And so I think if you speak about execution, the most important thing is how fast you learn, how open you are for new ideas. Follow your customers, follow your market, follow the market and see what works and what does not. You have to have the willingness to experiment. This is a very important formula for success. In a lot of self-help books, you can read how important is persistence. And in a way, it's true, persistence is important. But if you do the wrong things, very persistence, like always, going with your head around the wall, you will not destroy the wall. Nothing will. Persistence is only one thing. The other thing is the willingness to experiment. to the same if you go to the gym, you know, sometimes I even tend to make always same exercises the same way, but no, this is not the way how it works. You have to try new things. And I saw it when there was a time I had to work out with my girlfriend, and every time I suggested her make a new exercise, she said, oh no, I don't like it. I said, give it a chance. Try it for 2 or 3 months. Then you can see it didn't work. But if you always do the same things, the muscle gets used to it. And this is what Arnold Schwarzenegger called like shock your muscle sometimes with new things. And this is like you have to be open to change your opinions and how you see the world. Some weeks ago, Charlie Munger died, the partner of Warren Buffett. And you know, Warren Buffett is one of the richest men in the world, and his partner, Charlie Munger, was, I think, as important as he was for the investments. And what he said, Charlie Munger, is that a year when I didn't change my mind about an important thing is a lost year. And he was also the man who learned a lot and was open for new ideas. And not only reading books about finances or money. He read a lot of books about successful people, biographies, autobiographies, history, and different stuff. So he was very open-minded, and this is the way to success.
At the end of the day, right? There's a fantastic. Again, you talked about Berkshire Hathaway, and I love what they've done in the past 100 years. Coming back to this, there's a quote that it's very close to me, and it goes like this: "How big would you dream if you knew you couldn't fail?"
Yes. Yes, absolutely. This is. I ask always people, the most important thing in life is your goals. How big are the goals that you're looking for? Mm-hmm. Most people have no goals at all. I want to be happy, I want to have a good job or something like this, but this is not what I call a goal. And there are some people who have big goals, and some people who also write down big goals. I think I do it every New Year's Eve, and a lot of successful people write down their goals. And I think sometimes big goals are easier to reach than small. Most people think the bigger the goal is, the harder it is to. No, sometimes it's different. I give you one example. Yesterday, I had this lecture there with students. Mm-hmm. There was one really pretty student there. And I talked to her, here, come on, in front of her. She was the prettiest one. And I said, I think if she goes for example, in a club, in a disco, there will be not so many men speaking to her than to someone who looks not so good. Why? Because they think, oh, she's so pretty, she's not for me. I will go better to someone else who don't look so good. So the competition, of course, some people go there, of course, but the competition is not so good. Think about your company. If you work in a company with 500 people, how many of them want to be the CEO? Only a few. It's not that everyone would want to be the CEO. Most are happy with the way as it is. And so bigger goals mean a bigger motivation for you, bigger motivation. And my book here, Set Yourself Bigger Goals, it starts with a story of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I admire him, and I can recommend to everyone, not only reading my book, also watch. There's a movie now on Netflix about Arnold Schwarzenegger's life in 3 parts. And maybe I can tell the story short because you can learn a lot. When he was young, 13 years, his goal was to be the biggest bodybuilder in the world. And people laughed at him. His parents said, maybe I have to go to the doctor. Something is not, what does it mean? Bodybuilding, this is crazy idea. At his in his children's room, he had these pictures from naked men, and so maybe his mother thought maybe he's gay or what happens with him. His father said this. So, but then he reached his goal. He became the biggest bodybuilder in the world. With 20 years, he went to the United States, and he spoke no word English at this time.
Nothing. Lived in the gym.
And then he reached everything, became Mr. Universe, Mr. Olympia, and all what you can reach in bodybuilding. And then his next goal was, I want to become an actor, movie star.
Hercules.
And people laughed at him. They said, hey, you're from Europe. It's very rare that someone from Europe can be successful. Look how many people were successful come for Europe. And then the next thing, you have a strange accent from Austria, much harder even than my accent now. No one can understand you, and your name no one can pronounce. What does it mean? Arnold Schwarzenegger, they recommended him to give him another name like Arnold Strong or whatever. And then look, your body. This is from the 50s with Hercules movies, your body. But today we want to have people like Dustin Hoffman, not with your body. Forget it. You will never. But he had the will. And of course, with the first movies, he was not successful. He got an award for one of the 100 worst movies ever made in the world. Yes. But then he went on and he became successful with movies as
Conan the Barbarian,
Terminator. Yeah. But then he had the next goal. He don't want to be only with muscle action star. He want to go to comedy. And what was interesting, if you read his autobiography, then in one page he writes, then I started to learn humor. I think it sounds a little bit, most people think I have humor or I have not. But he said, no, I started to learn humor because it's like a swarm, like a learning machine to learn. So bottom up, in the end, with his movie Twins, he earned $30 million with a comedy, and he became one of the best paid movie stars in Hollywood. And then he said, I will go to politics. I think if he could do it, he would love to run for president for the United States. But it's not possible because according to the American Constitution, you have to be born there, and he was not born there. But he became governor of I think it was the 5th biggest economy in the world at this time, California, and became governor not only one time, 2 times. And all from a boy born in Austria in a small village with a difficult childhood and with a father who was obviously drunken and hit him and his mother and all this. So I love the stories from the successful people, and maybe I can tell you another story that is very impressive because I'm here in Nepal. I wrote another book that is published now in the United States. The title is Unbreakable Spirit. And it's about disabled people who were successful. And one of them I interviewed, his name is Eric Weinmeier. He's an American.
Eric Weinmeier?
Eric Weinmeier.
Weinmeier.
And he was the first blind man to climb the Mount Everest. I think it was 2003 or something like this.
We'll find out. Eric Weinmeier.
The first blind man to climb the Mount Everest. People laughed at him. Here, you are crazy. You will die. It's not possible.
That's him?
Forget it. Yes, exactly. That's him. Eric Weinmeier.
From New Jersey.
Yes. And it's amazing. And here, now the interesting story is this. When he climbed the Mount Everest, it was not in 2001.
2001.
Yes, it was not enough for him. He said, no, I want to have bigger goal. And the bigger goal was to climb the 7 summits. That means the 7 highest mountains on 7 continents. And he was not only the first blind man to climb the Mount Everest, but he was the first to climb the 7 summits. And I spoke with him. And, you know, I believe in programming your subconscious mind like a computer. I have one chapter in my book, like a GPS, you know. If you want to drive to another city, you program, this is my goal, and then you don't have to know how to go there because the GPS will show you. And
automatically you'll be there.
Yes, and the same is if you program your subconscious mind. And this is what he had done. He told me that before I was at the Mount Everest, I was there hundreds of times. I smelled it and I felt it and everything. I was there before. It was nothing special because it was not the first time. I did it every day, you know, like to have this vision. This is the same what Arnold Schwarzenegger said. First, you have to have the vision. He saw himself before he became the biggest bodybuilder. He saw himself that he was standing there and all people were shouting, Arnold, Arnold, Arnold. And he heard it and he saw it like it's reality. And this is, you know, what I believe in. I can tell you, for example, how it happened with this book. This book is now published in 30 languages. This is a lot. most of the books published in Germany are translated in not a single language, zero. I heard from 1,000 books, only one even is only published in English language in German. But here, this other book, this was published at this time. Now it's in 15 languages, but it was in 12. But this took me 10 years from first publishing to get more and more translation. And then I wrote down my goal for this book. I wrote down, I want to have it translated in 20 languages, and I want to sign the contracts this year. This was what I wrote down, in my book for my goals 2 years ago. And what happened? In June, I had signed contract number 27, and now it's published in 30 languages.
Good for you.
But it was only because I set myself a bigger goal, and I had always set myself goals and big goals. I was not happy with only what I call an average existence. I started to work out because I was very skinny, very thin, and I wanted to have a good body.
When did you start working out, though? Which year did you start working out?
When I was 20 years old, and I was very, very skinny, and I started to work out, and the other thing is, when I was young, I always had pretty girls then, but I thought, what's happening later if you are like now I'm 66, so and then I thought one time, okay, maybe it's better if you have a good body, and if you are rich, maybe it's easier to get this young pretty girls than if you are poor, because it happens not so often. Like for example, pretty young girl falls in love with old rich man.
How old are you now on this photo?
I think this is like 3 years ago.
So 63.
Yes, I think it's something like 63. And I think for 63, it's good. And if you think I never took any steroids or any doping or so, it's all natural.
Nothing at all?
And no, zero. And I was very, very skinny before. It's always a workout. And this was also for my life, I wanted to have more than other people, more money, better body, especially prettier girls. Yes, this was also important for me, and writing a lot of books translated in more language than others. This is to be ambitious, yes?
Of course, and you have to be different. Like one of your books, Dare to be Different, right? And
absolutely.
You have to dare to be different.
Absolutely. This is, of course, it's if you do the same thing as everyone else, you can't expect to have other results. And the most important thing is that you look for of course, I had always setbacks, failures, like everyone, all successful people. But the difference is, do you look for the cause of your setbacks and failure in yourself, or do you blame other people? I give you another example. When I was young, I remember one evening, every Saturday, I was going with my friend to disco, to meet girls, of course. And he said, when we were driving, bad day, there were no one. What do you mean with no one? There were some hundreds of girls. You can't tell me that there was no one that you liked. Yes, but today I have a pimple, and so it's not a good idea. And why is that we have to talk to girls? Why can't it be the other way around, that girls speak to us? Hey, forget it. These are rules that are some 1,000 years old. They will not change this evening. The pimple, it was dark. No one sees. No, the only reason why we met no one, because we are too stupid. There's no other reason. And then I had another friend, and he was very successful, always pick up girls. And then I said, okay, teach me this. Can I come with you? I will see it, how you do it. And then he showed me, like in the shopping center on the street, he started, to
talk to people.
Yes, to talk to girls. And then I learned it. And today, my last girlfriends, I met them, for example, just shopping. I saw someone and started to...
You just went and talked to her?
To invite her to a coffee or something like that.
Yeah, good for you.
Like this, yes. And this is, to do things different as anyone else. When I ask other men, would you do it if you see a pretty woman on the street? Would you go there and speak to her? No, I would never do it. Why not? what does happen if you do it in a friendly way, in a polite way, in a respectful way? If you talk to no one, the worst thing that can happen to you is, oh no, they say maybe you're too old, or maybe I'm married and whatever. But no one would kick you, no one would slap you. Nothing bad can happen.
Failure and disappointment is something that, and not. We don't want to take risks, right? Because that scares us. It's scary, right? Because you might fail. It might be disappointing, right? When it comes to entrepreneurship as well, right? That's the most important thing. Taking the first step towards your goals. Because we don't do that because we're scared of failure or disappointment. Or we can go ahead and put any word for it, right?
Sure. Everyone is. I'm also. I can understand. But you have always to analyze what is the risk and what is the opportunity? And you have to distinguish. If there's a situation, like I told you now, for example, speaking to a pretty girl on the street, the risk is zero because nothing bad can happen. The opportunity is huge. So it's the same with business. If you see there's a small risk and big opportunity, of course you should do it. If it is the other way around, that there's a huge risk and only, what you can gain or what you can win is small, of course you will not do it. It's only difficult if there's a big risk on the one hand and big opportunity at the same time. Then it's hard to analyze. But if you talk about failure, if some people don't start because they have fear that they are not successful, then they're still failed. Maybe it sounds a little bit paradox, but for me,
yeah, I'm getting that.
For me, anyone who's telling me that he never failed, he is a loser. Yeah. Because for me, it shows that he never tried anything worse than this. I will give you the example from the gym. If you, for example, if you do
a chest press,
yes, for example, bench press, and maybe you can do for example, 8 times 80 kilo as an example. And then if you take always 80 kilo, or maybe to be on the safe side, only 70 kilo, of course you will never fail. But will you grow? No, of course not. Sometimes you have to try what is with 90 kilos, for example. And then, of course, you will fail. Someone has to stand behind you and help you. But you cannot grow when you don't fail sometimes. This is, but if you don't start things because you have fear that you fail, you never try to lift this 90 kilo because you think, oh, maybe I can fail. Then you will never grow. So I think failure is not a problem. The problem is that people have too much fear that they could fail.
What are the new ideas that could come? I've been thinking about this since morning, since we were talking, right? What might be the next new idea? May it be in technology, may it be in real estate, you never know. That's something that might happen down the road as well as we shrink more and more in this world. So what might be the next new idea? What do you think? Or maybe it'd be outer space? Who knows?
Sure, maybe, but if I would know this correct idea, maybe I wouldn't sit here, but maybe I would work on this idea to make some money with this.
For me personally, I kind of have a feeling I love space, and I have a feeling that in the next few centuries, I hope I'm not wrong on this, it's the ideas are going to be outer space.
Sure, I'm now reading the new biography about Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And it's a great book. And even when he was young, he was a science fiction fan. I was also a science fiction fan.
2001: A Space Odyssey is our favorite movie.
Yes, but he made it reality for him. And even when he was young, he said to people one time, I want to go to Mars and and people laughed at him. Hey, it's crazy. But he started doing this. And of course, sometimes he fails. And there are so stupid people when some of his SpaceX rockets exploded. You see, it's a failure. And so, but what are these people sitting there in their small apartment, having done never anything successful in life, and they laugh at someone? Now he bought Twitter and he lost half of his money. How crazy? Say, hey, how crazy are you? You have never done anything like this. He always he took risks, but he had big vision. And this is the same thing that I was talking about before. It's about set yourself bigger goals. This is what you can see with all successful people. They believed in having big goals. I come back here to my area. For example, when I published this book, I asked my publisher, I would like to have a quote for how good the book is by someone like Elon Musk or Bill Gates or maybe Steve Forbes or someone like. And she said, no, I don't know anyone who knows Bill Gates or who knows Elon Musk, but I know someone who knows Steve Forbes. And then he reached out to someone who knows Steve Forbes. And then in the end, Steve Forbes read the book, and I have here a great quote from him that it's one of the best books written about capitalism. And later on, I met him, and now he's a friend of mine who's helping me. But this was only because I thought big. I thought maybe it's Steve Forbes. Of course, I was not successful so far with Bill Gates, but even finally now I have his personal email address, and I've wrote him in the email. I got no answer, but I will go on doing this.
You'll keep on pushing, and you'll keep on pushing, right? No, the idea of creating wealth is something that's very close to me, and that's something that's definitely going to go ahead and drive our country as well at the end of the day, because we need people with more ideas, and that's the fundamental pillar of what I believe in as well. And that's one of the reasons why I was very excited when you were coming over, because at the end of the day, if people make money, more people are going to go ahead and get jobs, and more lives are going to get better. It's simple as that. And I hope everybody understands that in this changing world, right?
Sure. So a society is successful if there are a lot of people who are with ambition, a lot of people who want to make money. And it's not only about to make money. I love it here that the title in Nepal is different than in the United States. The title is Dare to be Different and Grow Rich, Secret of Self-Made People. But it's only part of it. This book is not only about how to get rich, it's about how to set yourself big goals. You can have other goals. Maybe someone want to be a famous actor, or maybe a famous author or scholar or whatever. Don't have always to be money, but the most important thing is, if you want to have only an average life with working as an employee and doing the same job all over the day, waiting for the weekend when it's finally Friday evenings, and then or for their maybe few weeks holidays and even they speak about work-life balance, what is for me the most depressing word I've ever heard, because it means that your life and your work is something different. That means you live only when you're not working. But you work most all over the day, and that means you live only then maybe you sleep 8 hours, you work all 8 hours, and then you have to take shower and you go to work, and then it means you have only a few hours that you really live. And for me, this is very. I hate this work-life balance, because I think you should love what you work.
Can I ask you a question? You've read so much about some of the most successful people in the world, right? And tell me this, right? You have so much knowledge about a lot of people in the world, right? Very successful ones, right? When you read about them, have they ever written that they're unhappy with what they've done? In a sense that, have they ever said that they feel overworked, ever?
Oh, yes, there are some examples. I have also one chapter in my book for some people who learned that they had a burnout, and they had not like life-work balance, but I call it, of course, you have also to have time to relax. It's the
like
same,
a pause button.
It's the same with your mobile phone. If you use it all over the day and you never load it up again, it will get programmed. It's the same with you. So, of course, I have in my life also time where I relax. And for some people, the problem is if they work, they are not 100% focused, as I most of the times. And if they relax, also they don't relax 100%. But while they relax, they think about, I should do this and this and that. Yes, they can't relax totally. And I think it's important, of course. But this is also, you don't have to make all the mistakes that other people made in their life. You can learn something from them. And so I have a chapter here in my book, how important this is also, especially if you work with a high intensity. Let's take now these days when I'm in Nepal. I have a lot of lectures, interviews in the night. I can't sleep really good because three weeks ago I was in Colombia and Argentina and Chile. Then I came back to Germany. Now I'm here, and every time it's a different time zone, and your body can't change so quickly. Yeah. So it means that in the night I can't sleep so long. For example, today, maybe I slept 4 hours, but you see now what I do with a lot of energy, like now, and do also when I have lecture, when I have an interview, I do it with 100% focusing energy. But do you know what I will do after this interview? Go back to the hotel, take a sleep. Yeah. And after sleeping, then I have next meeting with a very successful entrepreneur. And so I do it this way, and I did it when I traveled. I told you since April last year, I was in 30 countries, but in some of them I was 7 or 8 times. So I was traveling all over the world in different time zones. Yeah. And the only thing you can do it if I sleep in between always, yes. And then when I'm sleeping or when I don't sleep, I have a method. It's called autogenic training. It's a kind of hypnosis, self-hypnosis. And I have a chapter here in my book. I think it's chapter 8, how to program your subconscious mind. Yes, programming your inner GPS. And this is a method. It's called autogenic training. I do it since decades, and this is a form to relax 100%. And then if you are relaxed, then you can program your subconscious minds with your visions, with your goals. And this is also something that helps me.
That's fantastic. I've never worked a single day of my life after I'm 20 years old. I own 2 companies and have friends who are really, I don't know, some of them are really happy working here. And I've never worked a single day of my life because I ended up doing what I love.
This is great, of course, and I think everything else is a waste of time. If if people work only to earn money and they hate it what they do, it's the same as if you would live with a girl that you don't love. It's because you have to love what you do. Of course, for everyone, there's a day for you and me when I don't like it so much this day. A lot of, sometimes if bad things happen, it's not so much how long you work, but sometimes if everything works well, you're, of course, good. And sometimes you fail and you have, problems, conflicts with other people. It happens. But on average, you should go up early in the morning and laugh and happy. Oh, I can start to work like what you do. You enjoy it. And of course, I think for most people, it's not this way. And some people mention, not everyone could do it. Yes, but I think not everyone has to do it. I accept it when people have a different concept for their life. But someone wrote me, how is with someone has no ambition and no motivation? How could you help him with your book? I said, I can't help him because I'm sure he will not read the book. He will not buy the book. This book is only for people who are already ambitious, not people who want to be motivated to become ambitious. Because who would buy a book? I think it's not so cheap here in Nepal, this book. Who would buy a book for set yourself bigger goals who's not ambitious? No one would buy a book like this. So I'm writing my book only books for people who are already ambitious and who want to have some ideas. And the other thing that is important, some people expect when they read a book like this to have an easy recipe that I say do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it's guaranteed. No, this is a crazy idea. These people also look for a kind of coach or so, but this is not how it works. I want to help people to find their own way. I want to give them some food of thought that they can think about themselves and then find their own way. If it is, for example, some people who want to get rich, then they watch on the internet, oh, there's a guru who tells me you have to buy this stock or this cryptocurrency and this Bitcoin or whatever, and then you buy. No, this is not the way to become rich. It's a way to waste your time. It's a way to become poor. The way to become rich, it's not there sitting on the computer and listening to someone, oh, he told me, and I would this. And then if he's not successful, they blame, this man, he was responsible. He told me to buy it, and I did it, and so it didn't happen. And no, this is not the way to be successful. The way to be successful is to hear stories from other people, how successful they were. Think about yourself, and think about what does it mean for me? What can I learn from me? This is the way. Maybe I could sell more books if I promise people this easy recipe. I guarantee you, if you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I don't want to lie to people. I want to be honest, and I want smart readers, intelligent readers, not stupid people who buy my books.
Dr. Reiner, thank you so much. Dr. Reiner's 2 books, Set to Yourself Bigger Goals, as well as Pujibad. I'll call it Catalyst towards success. Just get the books, and then maybe it can act as a catalyst for your success, right? Thank you so much for your time, and this is the first time we're meeting, but definitely not the last time. And
thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I hope I will be back.
You will be back. Thank you, Dr. Reiner. Thank you so much.